And hopefully we're back. Sorry about that, I'm not quite sure why, but this stream seems to struggle every so often, so usually at around, I've just noticed this when I was going through the archive earlier today, but it seems to be consistently at like the 1 hour 10 to 11 minute mark, then the stream just kind of dies. So I'm starting to get into the habit of just restarting it here. Next, probably this fall. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize they were doing such a late release. Usually they announce in March and then release in April. But, guess we'll see. Unless it's one of their extension packs or something, the 0.5 releases that they do. I always forget about those. I'm never quite sure we get those at work, so I try to pretend they don't exist just because I'm jealous that I don't get to play with the new tools. Well, at least until the next full version comes out. Unless they've done away with that, now I'm not sure. Gonna compete with Zbrush? Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't been. I mean, that, you know, Mudbox was kind of doing it before that, but you know, it definitely needs some. Definitely be nice to have a competitive market for my sculpting attention. Okay, I think I gotta add some belt loops on here. Let me unhide the belt's on here now. There we go. Take that out of solo. Maybe I should just build one and then duplicate it around, I guess? That'll probably work just fine. Where do I need to put these? The main one's probably just going to go right here, so maybe I'll throw that on there with the rectangle mask. And maybe tilt the camera a little. Alright, do a little shift release drag and throw this right in here. Do that somewhere around there, and it's just going to start at the top and extend down into the pants just a bit. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good enough. I can build that and then duplicate it around. I don't know why I just did it like that. Let's do it at 0 thickness. Let's solo it. Gotta find it. Where's the extract go? Under the tool. There we go. Oh, yeah, I gotta clean this up, don't I? Auto groups. Keep that in the UI. Delete hidden. That's in here somewhere. Delete hidden. Let's Z-remesh this. That'll be quick and easy. Z-remesh it a few times, see if I can smooth it out in the process. Oops. Let's get the polyframe on here for that. How many ways do you know how to navigate in Zbrush? I'm familiar with the 2 basic ways, I guess. I use the Alt key for all of it, so I'm kind of I guess you could say a bit of an old school Zbrush user in that regard. I use the basic Alt drag, regular document space zoom. When I first got into Zbrush, I actually pulled the buttons off my pen because I didn't really feel like I needed them. So I never really got used to the control key with the right mouse button to navigate and using the control, sort of that method. I've heard there's a third way, but I've never seen it demonstrated. So I know Paul Gabori kept mentioning it in the previews leading up to ZBrush 4R7's release, but he never, at least not that I'm aware of, he never actually showed it. Let me clear these loops out of here. Let's get rid of that? No, it's not going to delete loops. Alright, let's just do this by hand then. Z modeler, okay. Delete edge loop complete. Let's just do this. I just don't need it to be that heavy right now. That should be fine. Let's smooth it a little. Nudge the geo around a bit. Just clean up that shape. Yeah, okay. I guess the other element of the navigation that I utilize is the shift key. So I use the shift to snap my camera around and the shift release to tilt the camera or twist it, right? So there's that as well. Let's panel loop this. Nope. No polish. Negative elevation, and I'll probably need a higher thickness. Let's try like a 0.1. Oh, that's way too thick. Let's undo that. 2 loops. Like the 2 loops. Let's try 0.02. That's better. No, that'll work. Alright. I think I can work with that. And so... oh, let's bend this. Yeah, bending time. I don't get to do this often enough. I'm gonna use the... yeah, Ask Zbrush is great. I've been really enjoying that whole series. I just want something like that, I think. Can I bend the top a little bit? Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's do it like this. Let's do the line this way and maybe... I think I need a division inside here to clean this up a little bit. Ooh, you know what? I'm going to crease these edges. Let's grab that Z modeler brush again. Throw this in a crease. And just knock these corners back. I probably had done that with the angle option, but it should be okay. It'll be good. You know what? I'm gonna do I'm gonna crease the poly groups. I'm gonna hold the shape better. Oh, am I missing one? I missed one. There we go. Alright, that's good. So, oh, missed another crease. That's why the angle-based probably would have worked a little bit better. Which, incidentally, was mentioned on the Ask Zbrush video recently. Of course. Let me just divide this up a little bit. And let's clear the poly groups out. Increase all. Should be good. So now I can probably throw in that transpose move. So what I'm doing, and this is sort of an odd way to work, but I kind of like it sometimes. But I'm basically using the move tool to bend my shapes around a little bit. So the transpose move, and I'm doing that with, shrink this thinner a little bit, doing that with the Alt key pressed, right? So you can kind of just take the line, draw the line out the way that you want, and you know, transpose is one of those tools that I think a lot of people shy away from because it's kind of a weird, it works really weird, right? It's a really awkward tool to use sometimes, and if you're not comfortable with it, it's really easy to get confused. But it's well worth it to kind of learn it, I find. Just kind of draw the line out and then hold Alt and grab the end that you want to grab. You can't grab the start point, but you can grab the end point and the middle marker with Alt held and get it to kind of nudge and bend the shape, right? So it's kind of neat. With what I'm fighting in Zbrush is the zero measure. Oh, what I... The zero measure. Trying to find the best solution on keeping the silhouette of my model as much as possible on a very low poly count. Yeah, that is always a tricky one. I actually don't know that I've got a lot of good tips for you on that, other than to suggest manual retopo when all else fails, right? It's still a good way to do it, right? It's a reliable, sort of consistent way to get the job done. It's not always everyone's favorite answer, but you know, it's the way to get it done. I find, as nice as ZRemesher can be, I mostly use it as a mid-step, so that I don't need to leave ZBrush, but I can still take advantage of all the different things that topology has to offer in ZBrush, right? So being able to work in subdivision levels, being able to move up and down those levels is just, it's a really nice step away from the Dynamesh workflow, which has its problems, right? It doesn't always smooth as nicely, the shapes don't fall into place as easily depending on the type of direction you're drawing the line in. And granted, when you're blocking, you know, it's a great tool, but if I'm trying to refine something down and give it sort of a final pass, I find it hard to do that without topology of some kind. But if I need something to be in a specific location, you know, the retopo is the only way to really get consistent results. And, you know, I like to hope that ZRemesher will give me what I need, but if it doesn't, keep in mind you can always use ZRemesher as a start point for some of that too, if you really don't want to do the manual retopo thing. You know, ZRemesher can be, can kind of function as a sort of mid-step in with regards to the whole process of retopo. You take it, ZRemesh it, export it, delete the parts you don't like, and rebuild the parts you do like, and then, or rebuild the parts you don't like, sorry, and keep the parts you do like, right? Again, perhaps not the most ideal answer to a tool that's supposed to kind of, or sort of implies that it's supposed to do a lot of this work for you. But yeah, topo is a thing that kind of requires, at least when you're trying to do it for specific things like deformation in the face, or you know, when you're building a character or whatever, for hard surface and you know, non-deforming assets, I often find, you know, it's once I get the ZRemesh done, a displacement map will do the trick or something. If I'm going more for real-time assets, you know, it's going to have to be either decimated down or again done by hand to really control it properly, though. At least that's kind of how I find myself working. I'm going to throw this mask by polygroups on here and just nudge this inner structure up a little bit to clean that area up. So I just wanted to kind of mention that as I'm cleaning that area up. And I kind of like having these features in my UI. So just anytime I kind of use something different here, I like to mention it. That'll be okay. Let's see. It reads well enough for now. Let's translate it around. And I'll just do a quick duplicate with the transpose. Control Shift. Nope, is that not going to work? Am I confused as to how this tool works now? Control click and drag. Yeah. Oh, let's just do it this way. Subtool duplicate. Just translate it. So there'd probably be one at the side by the pocket. Let's just maybe hide everything but the pants. Clear that. Throw this in a rotate here. A quick turn. just use the move brush. And I'm using that high focal shift value just to get that nudging feel out of it. Just that sort of fine tune with that fall off. Just pull the bottom out here a little bit more. Make sure it's not crashing with the belt. Oops, and of course I'm not hiding the belt. There we go. Pull it out there a little bit. Maybe I'll even tuck this end up a little bit more. There we go. Duplicate it again. And again from the top, let's throw this into translate. I'm going to do the same as the reference here and do a double one on this side. It's definitely been smushed around a fair bit, eh? Do I have the... oh, I do have the dynamic draw size on. Ew. Having polygroups on the silhouette of the model helps ZBrush retain the shape. Polygroups on. It's not working with complex models where you have both organic and hard surface. Yeah. It's... yeah, results may vary, right? Polygroups. Yeah, I find I mostly use polygroups just for organization within the object when I need to either isolate stuff down or if I need to control different aspects of the structure in some way. So like I use it a lot. I use polygroups a lot when I'm dealing with hair, but I don't tend to worry about it as much when I'm building other stuff. I guess if I was doing hard surface stuff, it would kind of be a little bit different. But I mostly end up doing a lot of this organic character stuff. I do want to do some environment stuff at some point, though. Maybe I'll find some time on the stream to do a bigger little environment piece. Maybe something for this character, actually. Could be nice. Put him in a little scene or something like that and spend some time applying a few of the techniques that I've been working with here. I don't want to pull this too far out to fit the belt, because the belt's probably going to need some refinement too, right? The belt's pretty rough at the moment. It's basically just a strip of Dynamesh Geo, so if I do too much here, I might run into problems. Now at this point, though, I don't need to build any more. Just do a symmetry, so I can merge these together. Let's just do a merge down. Oh, you know what? I've got this somewhere where I can use it. Oh, but I can't see the subtools. Yeah, I need to rethink that one. Hold on. For now, let's just merge these down and mirror them with the Z plugin. So subtool master mirror. Master of subtools. There we go. Nice. Okay. Let's throw the rest of the cloth on. Hide these two pieces. I'm gonna move this down since I'm gonna be rethinking it anyway. I do find it useful to kind of organize my subtool order here a little bit more. The more I work on a lot of subtools, it's just I find myself constantly just moving things up and down so that I know where they are. So if you ever find yourself having issues with that sort of stuff, I definitely recommend kind of keeping your subtools organized in a way that helps with that, right? However you may wish to approach that problem. Do I make use of Marvelous Designer? I don't currently. I'd really love to. We don't use it at work, so when it came to deciding whether I was going to try it out on this character or not, my intent was to use this as a you build this as something to also use for demos for class. So it wasn't really feasible for me to treat this in a way with a tool like Marvelous Designer. I recommend it. I recommend it to everyone that wants to do cloth, but I haven't actually gotten much of a chance to use it myself. Here's this guy. I should probably just clean up these whole seams a little bit more overall. Just want these to fade as they hit the body there, right? They're going to be sitting off that shoulder area. Just dig this in. There we go. Hit that. That's what I was thinking. I wanted to bring up the Dynamesh geometry a little bit more. See if I can get it to hold the shape a little bit tighter. Let's go to 190. That'll probably take me to 192. That's fine. Sometimes it can be nice just to up that resolution a bit. I don't, I mentioned it probably a few times before, but I don't like taking the resolution up much until I'm really kind of happy with how far I've pushed the level below. But sometimes you're just going to get better results at the higher levels with certain things, like smoothing these the sort of smaller lumps out of this might be easier to do. And of course now I can Dynamesh it a little heavier. I like to use the soft form, or the form soft brush combined with the alpha from Orb's crack brush. You know what? I don't have Orb's crack brush at the moment. Is that like a sharp brush? Would it be similar to the Damien Standard or something, you think? Or is it something totally different? It's been a while since I've used that brush set. Not that I stopped using it for any particular reason. I got so used to working with vanilla Zbrush because it's just kind of makes more sense when you're introducing tools to students all the time. But I'm slowly trying to get into the brush, the custom brush thing more and more. Now that I'm using a lot of my own using my custom UI a lot more at least. So yeah, I'm always curious about these brushes. Yeah, so it's got that Damien Standard style pinch or sharpness to it, eh? That sounds like it would be a nice brush. Oh. Let's bring this back a little bit. Clear that out a little bit more. Smooth that down a little bit. The replacer of Damn Standard. You know what? I've heard people use it in that way, right? Like not, no one's ever quite said it that way, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people use it as an alternative to the Damien Standard, that's for sure. I use the Organifire brush that was handed over to me by an artist named Ben Aird. He was a VFS student that went through VFS anyway. And just a great sculptor, does some really nice stuff. I'm sure you can find it all online. Aird, E-R-D-T. I hope he doesn't mind me broadcasting his name out there, but he was a great person to have met. Really, really great sculptor, and he had this brush that he had built himself with just, I guess, just kind of playing around or something. And it's probably very similar, right? The same sort of idea, right? I got it down here. It's just a really heavy sort of brush. I think I'm in the wrong stroke mode for this right now. Throw it in a freehand, and I'm gonna crank the roll distance up. That's a bit more like it, right? So it's a little bit, probably very similar to the Orb and the Damien Standard type brush. I use this one occasionally while I'm sculpting. Sometimes I just kind of use the Damien Standard. Sometimes I switch over to this one. Just kind of push these lines in a little bit more. Melts on here too while I'm at it. There we go. The mock cut, yeah. I don't have that set here at the moment. I'm still sort of in the process of migrating some of those brushes over. I do have those at work, but in the collection of brushes that you kind of gather over time, I guess, I am more familiar with those. Yeah, the mock cut's nice. Funny though, I do find just because I get, you know, again, it's just because I use them so often because they're kind of the defaults, right? I definitely get used to kind of working with the Damien standard just out of having to kind of stick with the basics a lot. So it's always a little tricky for me to move away from that too. Like instinct, but I suppose once you find a brush you really like, you kind of it's always kind of hard to move away from it. I'm sure I'll struggle with any new tool that that they introduce into ZBrush down the road too. Yeah, the custom ones definitely can make life a lot better. One of the things that I've kind of been doing, and you might notice it from the interface as well, part of the madness behind my UI is to kind of bring out a lot of the options that make the custom brushes what they are. So I find a lot of the time I don't need the other brushes as much because I'm just turning on and off the features that make the other brushes work the way that they do. I guess a simple example of that, not so much a custom brush, but just as an example, would be the Move Topological brush. I use it all the time, but I don't have the Move Topological brush anywhere in my setup. Instead, what I've got is the topological button in the UI so that I can use that when I need it, right? It's a simple thing, and of course, I might, there's still other things like brushes that kind of involve a lot of setup that I probably would want to have as a brush as opposed to this sort of thing, but for some things I find that sort of approach works nicely too, especially with how customizable the whole UI is, right? It's sort of it's nice to be able to take advantage of that as well. Take advantage of this poly group while I'm at it, right? Just throw that geo around a little bit more. Move brush. Just wanna manage a few things around. Dynamesh and smooth. Oh no, not smoothing time. More standard brush time. Sometimes you just look at it and go, nope. There we go. Alright. little bit of wrinkling, a little bit of folding, a little bit of sculpting, and good enough. Nope, not good enough. Now good enough. There we go. Just clean that little one up there. Still looks a little messy from this front here, but I think I do have a little bit more room in the body. Let's unsolo, make sure I'm not crashing it through. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Right back here. Alt key move. Use this one all the time, right? Hold that alt key down, drag that out, right? The move brush. You know what I might do is just take a little bit of this area and the other ones in the front, pull a little bit of the wrinkling off of them. Let's do something like this maybe, so it's like standard brush, and as we get out into these areas, we get like a no. Just want a bit of a difference between the structure going in before versus after this, so looks like it has a bit of influence on the way these areas sort of pull. So we get like a little wrinkle off of that or something. Here a bit. Run this maybe off of that a few different ways. Probably run that both directions, but maybe I'll just stick with the one direction for now. Just a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Seems like we get a little bit of bunching in that reference that you had there turned. I'll throw a little bit of that in there to get that feeling going. So, twist a bit, and tighten that bottom shape up a bit. There we go. Yeah. And then I'll do the same thing here, just a little bit. Right? Look, I'll make it all manageable. Pick and choose, sit and lose. All you different crews, chicks and dudes who you think is really kicking tunes. Picture you getting down in a picture tube, like you lit the fuse. You think it's fictional, mystical, maybe spiritual. Hero who appears in you to clear your view when you're too crazy. Lifeless to those, the definition for what life is. Priceless to you because I put you on the hype shit. You like it? Gun smoke, you righteous with one toke. You're psychic among no possess you with one go. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, not for long. The future is coming on. Ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. A little bit on this side. Yeah, it sure does. How long have you been sculpting for yourself, Edmund Mod? Sorry if you mentioned that earlier. I might just not be recalling at the moment. And we're starting to come up on that 2-hour mark here. I don't know how much longer I'm going to last, but the stream will probably start flaking out shortly, so if it does, I apologize. I'll be back I'm sure not long after. I'll probably just need to restart the share stream here. So just a heads up that that might happen. Obviously I'm not going anywhere just yet, but the stream might not give me much of a choice. So if it happens, I will be returning. Sit tight and I'll try to make sure that it comes back. Sculpting for a few months? Nice, nice. Do you primarily focus on characters or environments or creatures or animals or anything in particular, or just kind of learning it all? Ah, your net is bad. I see, I see. That's unfortunate, but understandable for not streaming. This one a little bit. I'm just gonna do something like that. There's still no chest in there, eh? Huh. I guess that means I can go in a little further. Let's see. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay. Right on the surface there. There we go. That's a bit better. Smooth it back down. Cool. Primary focus is to destroy all the myths inside Zbrush. Nice. So are you, I take it then that you're focusing on all the stuff that no one does in Zbrush. I guess. I mean, you know, there's plenty of artists doing strange things in Zbrush, or things that aren't perhaps traditionally done in Zbrush. But are you talking about things like environments or hard surface type stuff primarily, or are you doing more of the 2D stuff, or? I do like that you call them myths, by the way. I find too, I'm constantly kind of combating the preconceptions of what Zbrush should and shouldn't be used for. I enjoy doing characters and sculpting that stuff up too much, but I find it can be used for so much stuff that people don't really think about it for, and in ways that, you know, it might not be the easiest way to do it all the time, but man, it's just so fun. I'm just gonna get rid of this piece here and just carve that right through there. It should be fine. Yeah, that's better. The anatomy, the never-ending challenge. Yeah, it's one of those things that that's really going to benefit the character stuff that you do, but you know, if you're into the environment stuff, you can kind of do a lot of that stuff with Zbrush for a long time without having to worry about anatomy. So enjoy it. But anatomy's not so bad once you get into it, but it does take time, and you know, you gotta have some good reference and some good books and some good techniques for doing it. I'd recommend doing it in 2D, or at least using some of the common sort of 2D approaches. I still struggle with anatomy. I usually just kind of rely on just sort of my past experience now to do a lot of it fairly quickly, but I still, you know, there's still more that I could probably go back in and learn. I want to do a lot more with kind of memorizing all the muscle groups and stuff than I currently do. You certainly don't need all of that to do it decently, but it really does help a lot, right? So I think the artists that do it the best are definitely the ones that know their anatomy well. But, you know, like anything, it's just another part of the learning process. Anything that I build, I find myself having to learn at least a little bit about, you know, the anatomy, so to speak, of it, right? Cloth and everything else, right? I mean, I learned something new today. Well, maybe it was mentioned before and I just missed the terminology, but, you know, the darts, right? I learned something new about the naming of the construction, and I probably won't forget that now, right? Or at least it'll be something that I'll think about the next time and look more for reference of. I find a lot of the time even just finding reference for things, you know, once you know the terminology, once you know the language of it, or you know, the anatomy, so to speak, of it, you can find a lot better reference and kind of go through the modeling process a lot better too. I think I mentioned this the other day, but one example that I use a lot is car modelers or vehicle modelers, right? Those folks know their vehicles inside and out. It's kind of crazy, but you know, it's the same sort of thing. It's just another type of anatomy in a way. I really want to get into doing some more environments as well. I like doing the demos in class, but I don't have the same sort of inspiration for it in terms of kind of wanting to do it in my own time as much these days. But I could, you know, I always like to dabble in it. I always like to put my characters somewhere, right? So hopefully I can use this guy as an opportunity to do a small environment piece that suits him as well. Reference is indeed a powerful tool. Let's throw these, let's get back into this organifier. Throw some of these lines around a little bit more. I think I'm gonna just kind of lost that edge. I'm gonna kind of just go in and reestablish this. How much of a delay do I have on this on no laser radius? That's no problem. There we go. I was going to cut this across the back too, wasn't I? Let's do that too. Let's maybe flip this sideways here. Maybe I'll just draw it straight. There we go. Yeah. It's a tough one to do, eh? Alt-Shift drag. There we go. Through here that would overlap. I think I'm going to be able to fit much detail in there. Well, this is a Dynamesh, but I'll have to go back through that once I Z-remesh everything. Well, the panels will be easier to work with in general once I Z-remesh, so that'll be okay. Alright, just carve this line in here. Oops. Same thing going down the front. Welcome, folks. For those of you that are new here, see the chat, or the chat numbers or the viewer numbers going up and down. So, welcome to anyone that's new. I'm just sculpting away here. Feel free to ask any questions or make any comments you'd like in the chat. I'm happy to answer questions if I can. Yeah. Welcome. I might be wrapping up in a little bit, but maybe before that, since we've got a few new folks here, I will do a bit of a look at the model as a whole as I start to kind of wrap up here, for those of you that are interested in seeing the project as it exists currently. This is a sort of a private investigator style character of my own design, I suppose. Just sort of blocking out a lot of the cloth at the moment. Oh, you know what I'm missing? I'm missing those seams on the inside of the arm and the inside of the shirt. Maybe I'll just stick this one right in here for now. Something like that would probably be about right. Let's throw it in the other way first, though. There we go. Always nice to give your character a little story, especially if you're designing it yourself. I find that helps a lot. You know, it really helps make the design decisions. Plus it makes it more interesting to build them. Just get in there and give them a little backstory and make them a little bit more real. That, and I think that's probably going to need to line up across here. Can I extend that down and kind of drop something through this way from this angle without running into issues? Let's see. Did that work? That kind of worked, yeah. Yeah, I think I can do that on this side too. Easy. Let's just flip the camera around. Some people really struggle with the camera in Zbrush. I don't have a lot of tips other than get some practice with it. Some people really like to use the Y-axis only camera, which is just an option that's usually located on the right-hand side here, but I imagine would be under where would it be if it was in the menu somewhere? Yeah, here under transform, you've got these X, Y, Z options, and they kind of lock the way the camera rotates a little bit. So if you ever find yourself struggling with the camera, try flipping it into Y mode. You might find that a little bit more comfortable, but a lot of people like it because it keeps you from ending up in situations like where I am, where the geo's sort of flipped upside down and you're looking at things from really funky angles. But as you can see, sometimes I want that. So for me, it's not something that I usually use, but for others out there, you might find it the thing that makes ZBrush make a little bit more sense movement-wise or camera-wise. I've gotten so used to this these days. I miss it when I go into Maya now, though. I'm always trying to alt drag and zoom with the pen or the mouse, and where's my camera movement? But that's me. Perhaps you have similar experiences, or maybe different experiences? Feel free to comment or argue or debate about it over in the chat. Huh? Encouraging the discussion a little bit, if you'd like. Tell me how you feel. Tell me how you feel. Or don't. Okay. Sit quietly and enjoy the stream, or sculpt alongside, or whatever you like. It's all up to you. I'm not... You can do what you want. There are a few little static wrinkles through here. I kind of want to get a little bit of this going through these shapes a bit here, right? Just these little wrinkle lines that kind of come from the pressing or the lack of ironing. He likes to have the stylish clothes. He doesn't like to iron them. It's a very, very specific personality trait that you can come up with on the fly while you're sculpting and make it seem like your character has more of a backstory. So easy. Story. Huh? Who knew? Nice turn. I'll be looking forward to that. I'll have to see how it goes. Sounds exciting. Put in here. Let me extend that out. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave that like this and just double check on everything and then start to kind of wrap up here. So, yeah, I'm gonna, you know what, I might clean this up right now. You know, I got this collar here. This collar is just sort of sitting on top right now, with a really rough tie kind of blocked in. What I might do is just fix this part up first and then call it. I think what I'll do is just throw in the Organifier and use that to kind of push the edging out and then maybe polish it. I'm just kind of thinking ahead as to how I want to handle the basic problems that I'm going to run into here, right? So I got sort of these planes. I got to flatten this out and make it sit nice and tight. Polish is going to work well for that. And it's also going to allow me to kind of thin the surface down a little bit more because I built it a little too thick. You can see it's just kind of a Dynamesh at the moment. But what I really want to do is get it prepped so that I can polygroup it and slice it. So this is a technique that I'll be using on the cloth a little bit later once I wrap up all these other elements. Like the rest of the sculpt, I guess. But I'm just going to kind of clean up this edging a little bit first. It doesn't really matter that this is perfect, but I just want to know where everything's going to be. I just find that makes it a little bit easier. How clean do I need to make this? How clean can I make this? Maybe color. Maybe I'll throw some clip on this. Clip curve? Clip curve. Where's my clip curve? There it is. Down here. Ta-da. Oh, huge project almost launched. Oh, jeez, yeah, that's always what kind of gets people distracted, eh? It's the work calls, duty calls, right? Just clip this a little flatter here, right? Just take that clip curve brush and just kind of trim this all in a little bit. I really just need that outside shape, so clip this from here. Let's do it this way. Nope, that's not gonna work. Let's do it like this then. Let's drag out the rectangle mask. Oh, symmetry off. Drag out the rectangle mask. Slice it or clip it. Mask keeps it from collapsing, and I could probably even do the side here this way. Let's just take the mask off. Oh, mask is off. Okay. I probably don't need to do this if I'm going to be slicing it, though. Let's see. I think I'll just slice it. Let's just slice it and get this out of the way. Mirror and weld. Yes. Nope. Wrong side. Mirror, mirror and weld. Yes. There we go. Clean that up and slice. So polygroup. Oh, it's already kind of polygrouped. Let's get rid of that. Slice. Alright, so after all my hard work, I'm just going to end up trimming it in a little bit further. But I should be able to just kind of follow this edge pretty well. Maybe I'll take a little bit more off the back here and try and even out the thickness. And then slice the top off. There we go. Cool. Let's slice the inside off. And get that front edge established. Right? Really like that slice tool. Again, for those of you that haven't seen me work with this sort of approach before, I'm using the slice because it cuts that edge, right? It creates the edge instead of leaving you kind of leaving you to the whims of the jaggedness of the topo, right? Which may or may not be useful to you, right? It's just sort of locks that edge in for you. So I can auto group that. And then bring in, oops, just get that one piece out of there. Z-remesh it. Let's duplicate, or delete hidden. Delete hidden, there we go. And panel loop it, which I have down here as well. So let's do 0 bevel, little thickness, negative elevation. I like the negative elevation to push it in. Oh, I gotta Z-remesh it first. Z-remesher. Where's my Z? There's my target poly count. I knew I had that in here somewhere. Yeah, that keeps it clean. Consistent poly looping, right? Consistent structure, and then panel loop it. No polish. 2 loops. I like the 2 loops. It gives me a nice clean topo. Let's bring the thickness up a tiny bit. Let's go 0.02. Just double that. I like the 2 loop option with the panel loops if you're just trying to use it to extrude, right? You could use ZModeler for this, and I think a lot of people do, but I do it with the panel loops because I can kind of just get a nice clean thickness with it, and you can use these other features for things if you want to.